Let's first look at a video from the web series Adam Ruins Everything, in which there is a humorous analysis of the diamond industry, and in particular the De Beers Diamond Corporation. So let's get to it, and then we'll answer some questions related to it.
You've made me the happiest man in the world. Emily, will you marry me?
How sweet. You like it, so you're putting a ring on it. But have you ever wondered why we put diamond rings on things we like at all?
Oh God, you're gonna tell us the awful truth about engagement rings, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. Hi, I'm Adam Conover.
Hey, Adam.
And you may think of the diamond engagement ring as a timeless symbol of love, but it turns out this ancient tradition was invented less than a century ago by the De Beers Diamond Corporation. Before the 1930s, nobody exchanged diamond rings when they got engaged. It wasn't a thing.
Apple, what do you say we get married?
Oh, that's a swell idea, Frank. What do you give me?
Well, I got the shiny red apple.
Sold. Oh, I love you, Frank.
But in 1938, the De Beers Diamond Cartel launched a massive ad campaign, claiming that the only way for a real man to show his love is with an expensive hunk of crystallized carbon. And we bought that shit.
Now, hold on. Looks like if I don't buy you one of these ring dealies, then I'm a tiny peck of pencil neck.
Well, it's on the side of a building, so it's gotta be true.
Well, crumbs.
In fact, every element of the traditional American engagement was designed to make more money for De Beers. How much you drop on that rock?
I don't know, like $4 grand.
Jesus Louises, that's more than your car.
My dad said the rule was 2 months' salary.
Yeah, sorry, dude. That's not a rule. That's just an arbitrary number from an old De Beers ad campaign.
Buy her a diamond worth 1 month's salary. She'll be sure to love you eternally.
Profits are down. Better make it 2 months.
This has gotta be the most successful ad campaign of all time. This is like if in 50 years, people were going,
Oh, honey, the same thing again?
Yeah, you know that old rule. Pizza in the morning, pizza in the evening, pizza at supper time. When pizza's on a bagel, you must eat pizza all the time.
Well, it's not like I'm throwing my money away. I mean, at least the ring is worth something.
Yeah.
actually, diamonds are intrinsically worthless.
I refuse to believe that.
Well, maybe you believe De Beers chairman Nicky Oppenheimer, who once said, quote, diamonds are intrinsically worthless.
Shut up, shut up, shut up.
In fact, they're quite common. The only reason diamonds are even expensive is that De Beers has a global monopoly on diamond mining, and they artificially restrict the supply to jack the prices up. But in reality, those assholes have a fuck ton of them.
These are extremely rare.
Pay no attention to that.
Which means that diamond you just blew your savings on has virtually no resale value. That's why De Beers wants you to think a diamond is forever. If you never try to sell it, you'll never figure out how badly you got fucked.
Fine, so what do we do about it?
Nothing. They've got us by the balls. A century of advertising has embedded the idea of a diamond engagement ring so deeply in our culture that even knowing all that doesn't get you out of buying an engagement ring. Seriously, give it a shot.
Okay. Emily, will you marry me? I'm not giving you a ring because the concept of an engagement ring is a scam on the part of the De Beers Corporation. But we could open a joint checking account?
Sorry, dude. I want that rock.
Fuck! Well, thanks, man.
No problem. Join me next time on Adam Ruins Life's Greatest Pleasures when I'll be talking about how puppies only pretend to love you in order to mooch off your food supply.
Who hurt you?
There are two parts to this story. One is on the supply side, so to speak. Very early on in its history, the De Beers Corporation was able to monopolise ownership over diamond mines, chiefly in Africa and especially South Africa. By doing this, they were able to keep competitors out of the market, and they then proceeded to artificially restrict the supply of diamonds to the market, and thereby were able to raise the price of diamonds well above the average cost of production or extraction. And in this way they were able to generate profit. The other side of the story, however, is the demand side. De Beers sought to ensure that consumers were willing to pay higher prices, increasing demand for the product by an ingenious advertising campaign, which a persuasive advertising campaign. It's not an informational one, it's a persuasive one, attempting to change consumers' preferences so that consumers came to see diamond rings as a necessity when they wanted to get engaged, and discouraged them from selling their diamonds, which they'd purchased, on second-hand diamond markets. This was done by an amazingly successful advertising campaign. If we think later on in the history of diamond markets, so closer to today, De Beers is no longer a monopoly. There are a number of other diamond miners, producers in the marketplace. However, there have been suggestions that nonetheless these nominal rivals in fact engage in collusive behaviour, so that they function together as something like a monopoly, while not technically or legally being a monopoly. You get the same kind of outcome, that is, an artificial restriction in the supply, the quantity supplied, which results in higher prices. On the demand side, that advertising campaign that went back to the early 20th century was so successful that it in fact embedded itself within American culture, which was then exported around the world. So you see a belief that a diamond engagement ring is the only kind of engagement ring that's possible, and that you shouldn't sell your diamonds. Diamonds are forever, you should hold on to them forever. It's become embedded in cultures across the world. And so in that sense, the demand and therefore the prices that people are willing to pay for diamonds has remained very large, despite the fact that that advertising campaign no longer exists. We can represent theoretically the behaviour of our De Beers monopoly using a graphical representation. So we'll start off with cost curves. It's not unreasonable to believe that De Beers in the long run will be able to take advantage of substantial economies of scale. That is to say, as it increases its output, its average cost of production fall. And we've also assumed here that, although this is not technically correct, that the marginal cost of production will remain constant. That is, each additional diamond produced will cost the same amount to produce. Now we need to put in the revenue curves. So we're going to put in the average revenue curve and the marginal revenue curve. Here we go. Here's our average revenue curve or demand curve for diamonds, and then we need to put in the marginal revenue curve, which will have double the slope of the average revenue curve. There we go. If we assume that De Beers is attempting to maximize its profit, then it will produce at the point where marginal revenue equals marginal cost, as is true for any firm in this theoretical understanding of firm behaviour. So the optimal output will be at the point where the marginal revenue curve and the marginal cost curve intersect, here. That tells us the optimal output, and the demand curve will show the highest price that consumers are willing to pay for that output. So there we go. Halfway home. We now need to know, we've got the price that consumers are willing to pay, or the average revenue, the revenue per diamond. What about the cost per diamond, the average cost? That's given by the average cost curve at the optimal output here. So we can see that the firm is making a profit per diamond, right? Average profit, the difference between the average revenue and the average cost at the optimal output. So average revenue minus average cost equals average profit multiplied by the total amount of output being produced. That gives us our total profit area. Voila. That's our graphical representation of a theoretical understanding of a monopoly, and in this case, the De Beers monopoly.